Chaos.radio. Music, podcasts, entertainment.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of NEWSWAVE, written, produced and recorded in the heart of Cornwall by the team here at Chaos Radio. I'm your host Tom Howe and I'll be guiding you through some of the insightful guests and exciting news contents that we've enjoyed across Chaos Radio this past week. Now on today's show we join Show Director Mark Holman from the Cornwall Garden Society, who explains what visitors can expect at this year's Regeneration themed spring flower show. We check in with course leader Mel Clear and new graduates at Duchy College Rosewarne to share the incredible journeys behind the latest cohort of newly qualified veterinary nurses. As well as that, we take a trip to Caerhays Spring Gardens, which reopened this week after the winter storms, meeting Head Gardener Jaimie Parsons, who talks us through the remarkable survival and bloom of the historic magnolias. We hear from Mevagissey parish councillor John Gann, who outlines the village's plans to take on local green spaces and public assets through Cornwall Council's devolution programme. If all that wasn't enough for you greedy lots, we welcome personal finance expert Sue Hayward, who joins us to break down new research that shows millions of over 55s may be missing out on key financial support. Plus, we talk to Emma Bryson, Board Director at the Association of Lifetime Lawyers, who discusses why lawyers are seeing a rise in contested estates.
NEWSWAVE.
Right, but first this week, spring is just around the corner, hurrah! And one of Cornwall's most popular gardening events is preparing to return. The Cornwall Garden Society Spring Flower Show will be back at the Royal Cornwall Showground in Weybridge on the 28th and 29th of March, bringing together stunning show garden specialist growers, talks and demonstrations celebrating the very best of Cornish horticulture. This year's theme is Regeneration. To find out more about what visitors can expect this year, Henry Rosel's been speaking with Show Director Mark Holman.
NEWSWAVE.
The Cornwall Garden Society is something that started nearly 200 years ago. It was set up by plant enthusiasts all over the county to celebrate all the amazing flora and fauna that we're able to grow in this amazing county. I say amazing, not just because I love where we live, but because as a horticulturalist, we are lucky enough to be able to have quite a unique climate that allows us to grow things that people can't grow in the rest of the country. And for that reason, for many years, people have recognised that. So when the original plant hunters were coming over and going, "Here, look, I've got an amazing camellia. I don't know what it is. I don't know what to do with it. It landed here for a reason." Not just because it was probably the first bit of land, but second of all, because it was a safer climate. It was a little bit more friendly. It was a little bit more accommodating. Maybe it was a little bit more wet at times, but it meant that it was a safe place for bringing in new plants to see what they do, how they act, and see if there's something that could grow over here. So the Cornwall Garden Society, 200 years ago, I think 1830, was set up for plant enthusiasts. And it's been a group of people who share knowledge and are passionate about what they do for that amount of time. The flower show is kind of the pinnacle of the year's events because of where we're at. Because of what Cornwall offers with, world-class displays of camellias, magnolias, rhododendrons, azaleas, this time of year is arguably the best time of year to come and look at plants in the whole of the country, I believe. And so we sort of set up to celebrate that and to share knowledge and to bring people to the county to celebrate what it is that we do best, which is that beautiful, beautiful thing of springtime. So that's the Spring Flower Show. We're now a charity. We've been a charity for quite a few years. So part of what we do and how we do it is based around why we're a charity. So the charity is set up to try and promote horticulture and heritage within the county because it's such a key part of our heritage in Cornwall. Cornwall. It's been, people have, since Victorian times and even beforehand, people have been growing, daffodils to send up to London and all around the world, I believe. It's a really important part of our heritage. People, I think, typically think of Cornwall and they think of fishing and they think of agriculture, and they kind of forget the horticultural heritage and history that we've got. And so a big part of what we do is trying to nurture that and to promote that and spread like the good word of what we do best down here. And so as a charity, we sort of try and get out into communities. We're trying to sort of work with young people. We try to connect people through the healing power of nature and those things that people like you and I might take for granted as people who love our plants. We try to sort of share the love with that really a little bit.
It's fascinating there, and you touched on the history and the heritage of it. And I mean, you go back and look throughout Cornwall, the amount of Mediterranean walled gardens that were also involved with, Tudor or Jordan builds and things like the Georgian builds. So, like you say, that history is there. And then, like you say, you look at the different plants available down here in Cornwall, that Mediterranean climate that we've got, like you say, slightly wetter. It's an entire new ballpark down here regarding species and what's available and the diverse variety that we've got down here as well. And I can hear how proud you are of it, which is amazing. And that's so good to, hear it represented in that regard. I want to touch on the theme for this year's show, Regeneration.
Yes.
Where's that idea come from? What sort of inspired that theme for this year?
I mean, look, as horticulturalists, regeneration is not a new concept. A plant's nature is to thrive. And I come across this all too often with new gardeners and experienced gardeners, that we forget this very, very, very point, that a plant's nature is to thrive. It wants to do well. It wants to keep regenerating. It wants to keep growing. But it's a really easy one to forget when we get bogged down with, oh, I've forgotten to mow the lawn, or I've not done my feeding, or I've not mulched my borders, or I've not pruned this. It's easy to forget that the base foundation set of rules is that little lovely plant or big plant or whatever plant just wants to thrive. And it sort of came from a place of that, wanting to remind us all of us, however experienced, whether you're new to gardening or an experienced horticulturalist, that this is a really key part of what we do, that we can just sort of go, okay, over to you plants, regenerate. I thought it was particularly important at the moment, without wanting to get too moody, with the challenges that we're all facing in society at the moment. Things are difficult for a lot of people. I'm not saying it is for everyone, but there are a lot of challenges out there, in the world climate, but also locally. I'm talking about environmentally, I'm talking about socio-politically, on every platform, there are challenges that we're all facing. There's a lot we can learn from plants. There's an awful lot we can learn. And if we remember these basic rules of plants wanting to regenerate, plants wanting to thrive, then I think we can learn from that and we can make our way through it too.
There's a quiet resilience there, isn't there, with plant life? And, they'll be here long after we're all gone, certainly ourselves. And I think that's quite humbling as well in that way. It puts it into perspective quite a bit.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, a lot of my work, I work as the show director for this project, but there are lots of other things that I do. I've created healing gardens for different projects and things like that. And I'm really, really aware of the ability of a plant's nature to heal. I don't know about you, but spending a day outside, getting my hands dirty and, getting rain on my head with a bit of a sore back because I know I've lifted loads of stuff. Actually, at the end of the day, I feel amazing for it. That sort of engagement with the elements, having the rain on my head and the dirt under my fingernails and the sun on my face, when it occasionally pops out. It's a therapeutic thing. And unfortunately, a lot of people are sort of either desk bound or indoor bound. And for me, this is a key takeaway that I want people to have. I want people to go, hang on, when was the last time I was outside? When was the last time I just fiddled about with my garden?
I think it's allowing yourself to make a mess, or to get messy, as it were. Everything's very clinical nowadays, or very clean. And I think we're reluctant. I'm reluctant even with a houseplant at home. I think, if I get the soil out and I've got to do some repotting, right, that's the kitchen counter that needs a wipe down afterwards. And I love nothing more than allowing myself to make a mess. Yeah, you've got to clean it up afterwards, but, go for it. it, get involved, put the phone in another room, forget about it, and just get stuck in with it. And like you say, it gets down to that basic level, almost that biological level there with a plant, and that's that taking you right back to your roots, the ancestry when it comes with working with plants and gardens, and it goes all the way back. It goes through our blood, all of us in this sense. So I think it's do as much as you can in the capacity that you've got, I think, is a great way of looking at it.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's absolutely it. And as far as the show goes, that is what I try to do. I try to sort of curate a show that will resonate with all different levels of gardeners, whether you're brand new to gardening, whether you're an experienced horticulturalist, to remind us of those amazing benefits.
So I love this, the Spring Flower Show, often described or termed as the Chelsea of the Southwest. Very nice too. I want to know, talk to me, I'm rocking up to the flower show, the Spring Flower Show here.
Yes.
What am I expecting? What's there going to be on display? How's the planning all gone for it, putting it all together?
It's called the Chelsea of the West. It was called the Chelsea of the West for a reason. The reason being is that we very much follow the format of those big lavish floral shows like Chelsea Flower Show and stuff like that. And the reason being is that we are of that sort of standard. The one of the main things that you have at the show is this amazing heritage of exhibiting the flowers, and we call it the competitive classes. So people will be exhibiting sprays of camellias, individual camellias, and these things are going to be, some of them are incredibly rare. You won't find anywhere else. So you'll find in a section of the show row upon row upon row of the most amazing, unusual camellias, daffodils, magnolias. You'll see that a lot of these have been judged. So we'll have some of the judges from Chelsea Flower Show that will be coming down, and they'll be saying, do you know what? That camellia there is the finest camellia in the whole of the land. That's one of the big things from the show.
Quite an accolade, isn't it?
It is. That is kind of where the show started. These days, we have, in the name of trying to make it more available, more inclusive, so that a wider demographic can come and have a look and have a fun weekend, we have followed suit with the likes of Chelsea Flower Show. And so we have show gardens. So as soon as you walk in, there'll be 4 beautiful show gardens that will sort of speak to this brief of regeneration. Other things that you'll see, the big thing for this year, our big news, is our dear friends at Eden Project are celebrating their 25th anniversary, which we're really, really chuffed about. Eden Project has become part of our landscape here in Cornwall, which is a beautiful thing. But once again, I think we should not lose sight that this is one of the 7 botanical gardens in the country. So what that means is they hold collections of plants, so that if anything were to ever happen, they've got a bank of seeds. They've got, it's an important thing. But not only that, it's a world-class garden that is one of the finest in the world. And so, we're very lucky that, you can pop through St Austell and go, oh, look, that's where Eden Project is. But I think we should never lose sight of how important this thing is. And so their 25th anniversary, we're making a big fuss of. We're really, really chuffed. They're creating an area at the show called the Sustainability Hub. The Sustainability Hub will be geared around telling the story of how we can look at sustainable practices for gardening, but sustainable practices for our homes, sustainable practices for the environment. And it's a real sort of a forward-thinking area that will help us feel a little bit more confident about making the changes in the way that only Eden Project can do.
I think it all sounds fantastic, and I think it sounds like there's something for everybody. You could really hone in and say it's for people that love their flowers. Actually, it's for anybody that has an interest in plants. Actually, it's for anybody that has an interest in the natural world. You can really expand with something like this. And I think, speaking to you today, I can tell that anybody going along to the show will find something of interest at some point. That's what I think the beauty of this is. Mark,
totally.
Thank you so much for joining me here today. Obviously, this has been the Cornwall Garden Society Spring Flower Show for 2026, taking place at the Royal Cornwall Showground on Saturday the 28th and Sunday the 29th of March. Looking forward to it, and I need to get my tickets booked.
Please do. I'd love to see you there. And I want to find out, what's your favourite camellia when you come?
Right, that's locked in, and I will let you know the answer on the day. Promise. I've got to ask real quick. If you go to a cleaner's house, it's always a mess. What does your garden look like, please, Mark?
I'm not showing you.
That's exactly what I thought the answer might be.
NEWSWAVE.
Now, we're heading to a very special celebration at Duchy College Rosewarne now, where a group of newly qualified veterinary nurses were honoured for their dedication and achievements. I sat down with course leader Mel Clear and some of the new graduates to find out more about their journeys and what it is that makes this event so very special.
NEWSWAVE.
Mel, as ever, can you just tell me a little bit about the celebration that's going on here today and why you do it and who it's for, please?
Yeah, okay, so our celebration morning is for all of our newly qualified veterinary nurses. They've just completed 3 years, sometimes a little bit more, of really, really, really hard study. And I think every single one of them will agree with me that the exams and the assignments are tough, really tough. It says it's a level 3 course, it's much more of a level 4, some bits even a level 5. It was really hard. And they don't just study, they're working full-time in veterinary practice, which is a really stressful job with a lot of responsibility. And then they have a portfolio to complete, which goes on forever, and they love so much. And then they're off the job hours because they're all apprentices. And then when they finally finished all of that, they have to face a stranger in an exam to do their professional discussion. And then when that's over, they finally get to do their final exams, which are practical exams that they have to go up country for. We feel this is the least we can do to just say well done to these guys, because the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons do put on a day for newly qualified nurses, but it's in London usually, and it's just ridiculous to expect that, these kids can't get there and they'd have to stay overnight. That's just so unaffordable. So we started this 3 years ago, and we love it. It's our way of saying not just thank you for the students for entertaining us for 3 years, but to say thank you to the practices who work so hard with them as well. Sam over there has been Jenna's clinical supervisor throughout. Sam was a student here not that long ago as well, and they've all worked really, really hard. So it's a collaboration between the practice, the college and the student, and it's the student that has to put the work in, believe me. Yeah,
we've been so lucky to come for so many of these celebrations, I think since the very first one, and you always impress upon us how actually challenging it is for these students to go through. But what's it all for? What's the end result? What happens to these students now? Where do they go?
So once they've all qualified, they become registered veterinary nurses. And then, as Claire was saying earlier in her talk, the doors are open wide. There's so many things that they can specialise in, from anaesthesia to behaviour to critical care, theatre nurse, advanced surgical nurse, advanced medical nursing. The list is endless. So the doors are open for them. And they all say, I'm never going to study again for the rest of my life, but I reckon every one of them will at some point, probably quite soon, go, do you know what, I really have a love of this and I want to learn more.
And you had a great speaker here today as well, talking about the importance of always learning and always progressing and always improving and being the best that you can be.
Absolutely, yeah. Claire was a student with us a few years ago in quite a challenging group. We built, I think, a strong relationship with these guys, and it's lovely. Like when Claire came in today to do this for us, it's lovely to see her again because she has progressed so well. So up until this one, we've always had like an outside speaker come in. And then after the last one, we thought, do you know what? It would be really nice to celebrate our ex-students who we know have gone on and they've done other things. So they can come in, they can just pass their knowledge and what they've learned and how they're progressing onto these guys. So they know that this isn't the end. Might be what they want. They might want to stay in general practice. We need amazing nurses in general practice, but they might want to go on. And Claire is an amazing example of how you can progress on to different areas.
Tell us about this current cohort then, before we share the floor.
This is Mia. Mia took a little bit longer than everybody else to qualify. She struggled, I think it's fair to say, academically, a lot. She came in, we worked hard, we kicked her, we pushed her, we pulled her, we got you through. And then she went on, she blasted a professional discussion, I think, on the second attempt, and then straight through the OSCEs, and here she is now as a qualified nurse. Took her a little bit longer, but it doesn't matter if it takes a bit longer.
It's such an inspirational story, because for some students it will. Some students will get it like that, and they're smarty pants. I was never that student. But yeah, that's exactly, everyone's story is different, but it's where you get to at the end. And how have you found it? Has it been everything you wanted it to be, and are you looking forward to a bright future?
It was difficult to begin with, but I'm glad that I persevered, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds. Yeah. And
let's move the spotlight along.
Alex works in a very small practice in St Ives. She has worked there for five years now, and she is so loyal to that practice, and her clinical supervisor Ellen, who unfortunately couldn't come with her today, has supported her right the way through, and we have had to push both of them from time to time. Alex has not been the easiest student always, but we finally broke through, and I think it's fair to say we now have a really good relationship, and we have a laugh together. But she knows how serious it is, and she's worked incredibly hard. For example, building their portfolios. If you're in a small practice, it's really hard to get the cases she needs to prove her competence in different areas. But she's persevered and she's cracked on, and she got there. So yeah, really proud of her.
I think overall I have enjoyed it. It's definitely had its challenges, but I think that day I put the uniform on for the first time, it made it all worth it, and I was definitely proud that I'd kept going and got there in the end, especially with Mel's help and the rest of the team. Couldn't have done it without them. So
it's so authentic for people to hear, for families to hear, and for other students to hear that actually other people have different challenges to go through. Right, we're not forgetting you two as well. So let's move along.
So this is Jenna. She works at Vets for Pets in St Austell. Jenna wasn't without her challenges either. But the one thing about Jenna was, from the moment she walked into this place to the moment she qualified, she never stopped smiling. And it didn't matter what we had to tell her. Like, I'm really sorry, Jen, you failed the exam. It's like, oh, okay, when can I do it again? You know, and what can we do? How can I get there? And she just never stopped smiling. She has been a joy.
And now she's so embarrassed.
Yeah, she's so embarrassed, love her. Yeah, but yeah, she has been a challenge at times. But yeah, she is always smiling. Yeah, she's our little smiler.
I think obviously I was 16, 17 when I first joined the college, so 17. We did the Anna course before we went. 16 then. I think obviously everyone here did warn us that it's going to be hard. I don't think we actually knew how difficult it would be. I think as an industry as well, I think vet nurses are looked down upon in a way that we're not vets, but I think behind the scenes in practice we do so much. And I think people, say, oh, you're going to become a vet, and I think it's really two different roles you're going to go down. I don't think I know any vet nurse that would want to become a vet. We're very hands-on with the patients, like Mel said earlier, going from consults to inpatients to theatre to looking at, we treat them as our own, really. So I think, like Mel said, I did struggle a little bit with the theory. I think the apprenticeship helped because we're in the day-to-day practice anyway, so you could learn a lot from watching my other nurses, and you could learn on the job, which really helped obviously putting that into college. Mel, bless her, I think all the team as well. I don't dislike any of them here. If I did do something, they were really supportive of, you didn't quite make it. I know I come in for extra days, they've come in, we've did teams. And David as well, he would teams me before, say I've had a retake of exam if he wasn't here. So I think they're all here to, kick us up the bum to get us going. But it's been good. It has been good. And finally it's over. Without sounding horrible, I think it took a long drag, but now it feels like it was gone in the blink of an eye. But apart from that, yeah, it's been very rewarding, I think, is the job.
And last but by no means least.
So Amy is no longer working in the practice where she was when she was doing her training. She's moved to Beacon Vet Care, which is a very large now independent practice in Cornwall, with so much kit. You must be like, oh my God. Yeah. Amy has worked really hard. She was one of our students that we never really knew how she was doing, how she was so quiet. But bless her, she just cracked on, did her exams, did her assignments, not a problem, did her portfolio. Everything worked fine. She went through her last exams without a problem, no hitches. Went to Beacon and happy there now. You've been there 6 months?
Since October, yeah. So, it's really good. I think I wanted a bit more of a challenge, I think, from my previous vets. I wanted to maybe work in like referral and get more of like, because I really loved inpatient nursing. And I think the cases you see there are something that I've never ever had experience with. So I wanted to kind of progress my learning. So yeah, it's a minefield, but it's really interesting. And yeah, definitely like you learn on the job. Obviously you come to college and you learn the practical and the theory side of everything. But really, I think you do kind of learn on the job. You're just learning so much. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it though.
Perfect. Oh, well, congratulations to all of you. What about the next generation? What do they need to know? How can they find out more information? Where can they sign up? All those kind of things. Any secrets that you can pass on to them to help them?
Not really.
Any answers?
So a lot of you came through as an Anna, didn't you? You did the Anna, you did the Anna. So you didn't do the Anna. No. A lot of our level 3 students, before they come through to do the diploma, come to us as level 2 animal nursing assistants, and they can work in practice just one day a week as a volunteer, so it's easier for them to get a placement. Then they spend that time in practice, practice gets to know them, and if they're happy with their work ethic, etc., then they'll put them through to the level 3. So it's a really good route into the level 3 diploma in vet nursing. The really hard part of getting into vet nursing, and I think these guys will attest to it, is actually finding that first placement. That is so hard because we only have, I think, about 40 training practices that we work with. A lot of them are smaller practices, so they only have one student at a time. So it is really, really hard. There's very few placements out there. But yeah, the fact that they've persevered and found themselves a placement is usually enough to tell us that, that this is really what they want. Before they come to us as a level 3, they have to have 5 GCSEs. They have to have a maths, an English and a science and any 2 others, but they have to be grade 4 or above. I always have to stop and think because I'm still ABC in my head, but they have to have grade 4 or better on all 5. So if they don't have those, then they can do the level 2 animal nursing assistant, and we can work them through that way. But yeah, it is a tough thing to get into. I think all of these guys will agree. Actually getting in and getting that starting point is the hard thing. Yeah.
But look at them now.
Look at them now. We're so proud of them. Yeah, really proud of all our guys that go through.
NEWSWAVE.
Right, you're listening to NEWSWAVE here on Caerhays Radio with me, Tom Howe. Time to switch it up now and talk Mevagissey Parish Council, who are looking to take greater control of the village's much-loved green spaces, play areas and public assets as part of Cornwall Council's devolution programme. At an open day in the Jubilee Hall, residents had the chance to hear how the plans could shape the future of the village and how they can get involved. I caught up with Parish Councillor John Gann, who's leading the project, to find out more.
NEWSWAVE.
Okay, first of all, would you mind introducing yourself and telling me a little bit about your role in the village, please?
So I'm John Gann. I'm a parish councillor on Mevagissey Parish Council. Been involved with them for just over 8 years. I've lived in Mevagissey for 13 years, and I'm currently heading up a project looking at devolution and taking assets from Cornwall Council and bringing them under the control of the parish council.
And today we're here at the Jubilee Hall in the village talking about what that might look like. So for people that aren't aware, people that weren't here today, tell us about the project, its inception and where you hope to go with it.
So Cornwall Council have instigated a process of devolution, which is passing assets. In our case, a lot of these are green spaces, play areas with children's play equipment, benches with nice views and things of the sea, which we have in Meva. So we're looking at taking control of those, so we as a parish and as a community will be responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep. And actually we're looking to improve the planting and the visual look of a lot of these sites. So they're back to how they were, because they have declined over the last 7 to 10 years, I think it's fair to say. And Cornwall Council are in agreement with that, and I think they see that being local boots on the ground, that we're better placed to bring these assets up to standard.
What kind of areas have you identified, and tell me what makes this community so special as well?
Well, the community is special because it's a year-round village and a community. We're founded with still a fishing fleet. A lot of people live and work in the immediate areas around the village, but we also have a high number of retired folk as well. But we do have a good sense of community, village school as well. So there are still a good decent number of young people. But it's the assets that we're looking at taking on. Some just haven't had enough TLC over the recent years. So there's things like play equipment where it will need repainting. Some of the items need replacing where, metal's corroded by the sea, etc. But it's also things like, fences to keep areas safe and top of cliffs, and where hedgerows have expanded across into hedging, into the fencing. So, we've got a diverse sort of range of challenges in front of us, but so far today the feedback from the community has been really positive. A lot of people volunteering to help, whether it's by supplying plants or doing planting or grass cutting, strimming, you name it. So it's looking really exciting.
And you've got a very active Cornwall councillor here in James Mustoe as well. What's been the relationship with the council over the last few weeks, months and years? I suppose they've identified, haven't they, that maybe they can't be everywhere across the county?
We're very lucky to have James. I think regardless of any party politics, that everyone I speak to in the village is very supportive of his can-do attitude, and he really will roll his sleeves up and get things done, and also well connected within Cornwall Council to find answers to questions or people that can facilitate solutions. So very, very good indeed. James has been key in supporting this initiative. Yeah, I think with his ongoing support, which he's expressed, he's coming on later this evening, we'll be going onwards and upwards, hopefully.
What does the process look like now? You've got an open day where members of the community and the area have been coming in to kind of work out what maybe your priorities were and are, and maybe what some of their priorities might be as well. What does it look like now? Are you just sort of in the conversation phase?
No, so we've done a lot of work with Cornwall Council. We've had a good working relationship with their legal and estates team, with a lot of roundtable meetings that have been led by myself to really understand the technical legal issues, which is sort of my background, of things like boundary ownership, where services may run through, whether it's water or telecom electrics. So we understand what the assets are and where the pitfalls may be. We're now listening to the community to see what things they think, because there's bits that we may miss as a parish council, but also hear their positive ideas around replanting, or we have a skate park which is a little bit tired in the village that might need replacing. What would that look like, and those sorts of things. So that part of the process is underway. We've had very good feedback today. If we decide, and the parish council will take a vote at some point in the next month or two to progress with the devolution package, then we'll have to discuss with Cornwall Council about appointing solicitors to undertake the formal legal process of transferring the freeholds of the different assets. But hopefully with the homework we've done already, that should be a fairly swift process.
Wonderful. We're seeing it up and down the country, aren't we? Communities sort of, for lack of a better phrase, taking the power back and maybe taking ownership of the areas that they live. We're seeing such pride in place and pride of place, aren't we? Because we've seen in the last few weeks and months the damage caused by the various storms. We've all, none of us have been able to escape it. And we've seen communities standing up for themselves, not waiting for sort of, the answer to come through on a white horse and a knight in shining armour. Communities are starting to pick up and do things for themselves. And that's no different here in Mevagissey.
No, absolutely. I think it's great that we're actually hearing from Cornwall Council some honesty that they don't have resources to apply. So actually people are realising that this is a viable option to improve both where we live, for our own, those of us that live here, throughout the year, for our own sanity to be looking out on nice areas, but also that everyone recognises that tourism is a key part of the economy for Mevagissey, and that to have the place looking its best, back to how it looked 10 years ago, is really important, because it helps to sustain businesses and jobs within the parish. So yeah, I think taking back control will be responsible, and the buck will stop with us. But it's it's better to be there than just complaining to others far away removed, and we'll just roll our sleeves up and crack on.
Yeah, and there's so many benefits of that, isn't there? We chatted on air about some people in the local area who may grow and sell flowers, or they may have particular skills that they might be able to offer, for free or at a reduced rate to support their local area, and it might entice other people to come out of their homes with different skills as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already had people today offering that they'll be dividing up more plants, that they'll have some in reserve ready for us if we can get this moving ahead. But more importantly is that people saying, I can't do the heavy digging. Well, we'll be able to split the resources and the tasks so we can have some more strapping lads and lasses do the heavy lifting, and those better suited to more genteel works can focus on that. And that's exactly what community is all about, is that everyone can contribute, even if it's just half an hour a month or half an hour a year, is just to contribute and to show that we're all in this together to try and improve our environment.
Where can people find out more information? If they couldn't get here today, is it a case of looking on the Parish Council website? Is it a case of sort of looking out for leaflets and different assets sort of around the village? How's it working?
So there's leaflets around in the village, in the community, in various of the social club, the surgery, and the pubs, and in the shop. There's details on there, but also to anyone with any questions or concerns or just comments that hasn't been able to make it today, email to the clerk at Mevagissey Parish Council. Details on the website, and he will make sure that information is shared with the Parish Council and those comments are taken on board. Thank you for coming along and raising the profile. We are conscious that this is still a relatively new process, so if there's any other parish councils, certainly within Cornwall or Devon nearby, that have been through this process that might have any learnings or advice, then we're very much open to that and welcome any contact via the clerk on our website.
NEWSWAVE.
Now, after the winter we've all experienced, here's some very welcome news. Caerhays Spring Gardens reopened on Monday, the 2nd of March, which for many in Cornwall represents the first signs that spring has sprung. The storms, though, that we've seen recently have brought hundreds of trees down around the historic site. Although their magnolias, some over 100 years old, are all still standing and now starting to bloom. Joining us now to delve into the story is Jaimie Parsons, Head Gardener at Caerhays. Hi, Jaimie, how are you?
Hi there, I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Look, thank you so much for joining us here on Chaos Radio. First of all, after the winter weather that we've had, would you mind just starting by giving us a picture of how Caerhays and the area was affected, please?
Obviously we had the storm and the main gardens then. We came in and couldn't get down the main castle drive, unfortunately, and that's a mile long, and various trees were blocking it, and we as we came down the drive, there was some small trees down, and as we got further and further down the drive, the bigger the trees got, really. And it wasn't it was climbing down the drive, climbing over trees, cutting in the field, up over a bank, and then it sort of really dawned on us the extent of the damage. Some of the drive was ripped up, complete windbreaks were taken out, and we only just opened the drive up on Friday. And then we walked around the gardens, or just did the main paths around the gardens, really. And then there must have been 8 or 10 Pinus radiata, and they were 120 to 140 years old. And it was quite upsetting and numbing, really, on the extent of the damage, the plants that the trees had hit, and it was sort of one of those occasions where you really didn't know where to start. But we started on the drive. And as I said, we only cleared it really last week, and we basically got several teams, contractors in, and went gun-ho really on clearing the main paths of the gardens. So the main paths are cleared. The public can see we've done a very good job and tidied up so they can see the areas that are cleared, and the wood stacked up, but there's still plenty more to do yet.
Just to get an idea of the scale that we're talking about, how big is the area that you're dealing with there, Jaimie?
Well, the main gardens that's owned to the public is 140 acres of garden. So it's when I first came here, it was just 60 acres. The main gardens around the house is around 60 acres, but we took various areas in across the other side of the estate. And there's only 4 of us in the gardens, but we have got some great local contractors that have pulled the stops out and helped us tremendously. Ross Collins and Jamie Trounce, they've been a godsend to us, really.
That's just it, isn't it? We've seen such an incredible response because I think we all saw in the news and social media that these storms were coming, but I don't think maybe we anticipated the damage that we were going to see sort of the morning and in the weeks afterwards. So local people have joined together to really sort of help recover, like you said, huge areas that have been hit really hard.
Yes, no, and it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't just the gardens. Obviously, all the little back roads then had trees across them. So the local farmers were in with their tractors clearing. My team and the locals are out cutting and clearing the roads. Because I mean, obviously, we got a lot of elderly people living in the area, a lot of vulnerable people. So the roads had to be cleared for their daily lives to get on, and of course. The children needed to get to school. Not that they would have been so worried about getting to school, I would imagine. So, but no, it's everyone's pulled together, and you can certainly, who stands up in a crisis.
Yeah, absolutely right. And look, well done to everyone involved, because it's been a mammoth effort. And as you alluded to earlier, those efforts are still going on. Let's move on to something now really, really special as well. That's the magnolias over on your site there. And it's become a tradition for many here in Cornwall that their bloom is a sign that spring has sprung, isn't it? Can you just explain what it is that makes your collection there so special?
I mean, when we say spring has sprung, it always springs earlier in Cornwall. So, I mean, our first magnolias were flowering sort of mid-February. So, obviously, we was meant to open in mid-February, but we couldn't due to the clear up. But no, I mean, the magnolias, we've got over 1,000 here in the collection. And our oldest magnolia is Magnolia stellata, and that's planted in 1897. Then we move on to Magnolia campbelli, that was planted in 1910. And they're still thriving here. So, yes, we've got magnolias from all over the world. And, of course, we've the family and the gardeners are well known for hybridizing. So we've got lots of new hybrids coming on. We've got magnolias flowering from mid-February up till sort of mid-April when the yellow magnolias come out. So, no, there's plenty to see. And obviously, you've got the camellias and rhododendrons, and the wildflowers here is tremendous. People always comment on the primroses and the bluebells here as well.
Amazing. And was that largely sort of unaffected by the storms?
Largely unaffected. Obviously, we didn't lose one magnolia that was blown over, uprooted. But obviously, 1 or 2 magnolias were hit. 1 or 2's not going to make it. The others we've cut back and they should shoot again. But they were areas of young planting. So we can replace them. We've not lost the sort of the historical early introductions, thank God. But we do propagate those anyway. So in times that we might lose them or they get old, we've got younger plants coming on of the originals. So.
Wonderful. And you're back open again now, a little bit later than normally advertised in the year. What can people expect from their visit to the estate and, of course, the castle as well?
Yes, so the castle will also open today as well. So you can do 3 tours. They run 3 tours a day. And we got new people in the tea rooms. The people that's coming in today. It's just been droves and droves of people coming in, which is fantastic, really. Obviously, it'll help to help with the costs of the clear up. But no, there's lots of rhododendrons out. The Williamsii camellias are out at the moment. There's certainly plenty to see for everybody in the gardens over the next few months that we're open.
Oh, magical. And it's always sort of a turning point in the year when the gates are open and people can start going into these amazing sort of spring gardens, seeing all of the lovely stuff that Cornwall has got to offer. For some of our listeners who might want to take it a step further, are there any sort of volunteering opportunities? Can they make donations, that kind of thing? Where might they be able to find out more information?
They should be able to find out more information on our website, or just come in and pay your entrance fee and walk around. That would support us more than anything. And look what you can enjoy around the gardens. You've got 140 acres of garden to walk. Bring the dog. Dogs are more and more welcome around the gardens. Of course, and when you park at the beach, you get the free parking, and you can always then have a picnic or spend the afternoon on the beach. So, and there's plenty of coastal walks around here as well. So there's plenty to do for the day.
And plenty to see on social media, on the website as well. But that's only half the story, isn't it? Get down, have a look, enjoy it while you can. When does the season run into, Jaimie? Can you remind me?
We close, I think it's about 14th, 15th of June, but we do have a fete day as well this year. We do that every 2 years. So that will be children's games, dog shows, craft tents, food. Again, those dates are on our website, and that's a real good family day.
Wonderful. Jaimie, it's been absolutely a pleasure welcoming you to Caerhays Radio. Before we let you go, is there anything you'd like to add that you think is important for people to hear, or anything that we haven't covered?
No, not really. I think we've covered everything. So, no, just come to Caerhays, enjoy the day. Really, it's like I said, it's a full packed day.
Wonderful. That was Jaimie Parsons there from Caerhays, talking about this week's reopening and the start of the magnolia season as well. If you'd like to visit or find out more, head to visit.caerhays.co.uk.
NEWSWAVE.
Right, here's a question for you. Did you know millions of older Brits could be missing out on thousands of pounds a year, all because they don't know what they're entitled to? New research highlights a knowledge gap amongst the over 55s. 2/3 are unclear about their later life financial options, with 71% lacking confidence in their understanding of the support they're entitled to. To make sense of it all, Cheryl Gordon caught up with personal finance and consumer expert Sue Hayward.
NEWSWAVE.
Sue, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do, please?
Yes, my name is Sue Hayward and I'm a consumer and personal finance expert. So I'm all about ways to make more for your money, more power for your pound.
Today we're talking about new research that says many people over 55 are missing out on money they could claim. Can you tell us and talk us through the finer details, please?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the research McCarthy Stone found, as you say, 2 in 3 UK adults over the age of 55. So they don't really understand the financial options available to them. And this could mean missing out on thousands of pounds a year. And this could be anything from pension credit, council tax discounts, even travel discounts and supermarket savings, because there's lots of ways that you can save. And of course, with property. That is the big one. Around 87% of people in the research actually said that they hadn't really considered their housing options in later life.
Lots of people say they're unsure about their money options. Why do you think this could be?
I think it's sometimes because it can be confusing. There are so many potential payments and benefits and things out there, and a lot depend on your income or how much you're earning or what level of savings you've got. And even in some cases with certain benefits, if you claim something, you then may not be entitled to something else. So it can be confusing, which is why I often say to people, it's worth looking at your own situation and giving yourself a little financial health check once in a while, because circumstances change for so many of us. So even if you weren't entitled to certain payments, then you may be 6 months on, depending on your situation, if you've lost your job or if you found you've got a lower income in retirement.
What are some of the common benefits people miss out on, and roughly how much could they be worth?
Pension credit is one of the big ones because there's around 1 million people who could be eligible for pension credit who actually don't claim it. Now, the amount you get depends very much on your own circumstances. But as a rough guide, those who are missing out on it by not claiming could be entitled to around £2,600 a year. Another one is attendance allowance that people may not realise they're entitled to. This is something if you need help with daily things like washing or dressing due to a health condition or disability and your state pension age and above, that you could be eligible for. It's paid at different rates, so it's one of these slightly complex things, but it's worth looking into it if you think you could be eligible for it, because once again, could potentially be worth thousands of pounds a year. And you know, there's all sorts of things like even little discounts, supermarket savings, discounted cinema tickets, cheaper tickets for days out. So things like that is always worth asking whether or not you're entitled to any of these. A lot of the websites, of course, will flag these up if it's a particular deal at the cinema or a theme park or something. But it's always worth taking on proof of ID and actually asking if you're entitled to something if you're an older person.
Housing choices can make a big difference to money later in life. What do people over 55 need to think about when it comes to moving or downsizing?
I think it's really important to actually do some planning and research, because I always say that gives you the power, if you like, to choose the retirement and have more choice about the retirement you want. So, for example, downsizing to a more manageable property could be an option. Let's say if kids have left home and you're sitting there with high energy bills and maintenance costs, you may want to downsize to a smaller property. And of course, that could even save on the council tax bills. And even shared ownership in later life could be an option. I mean, for example, McCarthy Stone launched Home Buyers Help, which means you can buy a share of a purpose-built property with flexible ownership options. And depending on the share you buy, you may actually have the rest of it rent-free.
If someone listening feels lost or doesn't know where to start, what simple steps can they take today to check what they're entitled to?
I think when it comes to your finances, so the things we've talked about like pension credit, attendance allowance, I think go to the government website. They will have guides on these and actually how to apply. If we're talking about council tax discounts, then speak to your local council. And for housing, like we mentioned, later life shared ownership, McCarthy Stone website, so mccarthyandstone.co.uk is a good starting point.
And finally, what are the key messages you want people to remember after this interview?
I think it's really about planning and research, thinking about what you want in later life and planning for it, giving yourself a financial health check and looking at what you can afford and how to get there.
NEWSWAVE.
And finally this week, Cheryl was joined by Emma Bryson, Board Director at the Association of Lifetime Lawyer, who discusses how lawyers are seeing a rise in contested estates as the majority of midlife Brits admit they don't have a will.
NEWSWAVE.
I think there's a number of things that can cause issues after someone passes away. A few of those might be where the will wasn't professionally prepared. So somebody's tried to make a will themselves. Unfortunately, there are lots of ways that can go wrong, resulting in upset and disputes post-death. Another thing that sometimes causes issues is wills not being updated. So they're no longer reflecting the current situation, people's family, people's houses, belongings, and it's not been updated. So this is why we're urging people to make wills, or if you haven't made a will, to update your will.
Your research shows that people in their mid-40s to mid-50s, often with the most to protect, are among the least likely to have a will. Why is this particularly this age group putting it off, and what risk does that create?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, we're not sure exactly why, but I have a few assumptions. I think it might be because potentially this is the age range of people that are arguably have the most going on. So they may just be too busy, putting it off families, working, children, life. And I think it still feels really young, and it is young. So people probably don't think they need a will, which is not the case, and you absolutely do. But it probably feels too young maybe to be having those conversations. And of course, we don't like to talk about dying, but it is just one of those things that we all need to have in place to protect our families.
DIY wills have become more popular in the recent years. From your experience, what's the biggest mistakes people make when trying to write them themselves?
I think one of the things that I see people get wrong a lot is the signing of the will, the execution, which you think would be straightforward, but actually it isn't. And the law is very, very specific on how a will needs to be signed, how it's to be witnessed, and the order of those signatures and who needs to be present. So people get that wrong a lot. And unfortunately, if that isn't exactly right, then the will is invalid, and it won't work. So I think that's one of the most common things. Other than that, there'll be issues with the wording and it not doing as you had intended.
For anyone listening who knows they need to sort out their will out there and keeps putting it off, what's the simple and safest step to take?
So just bite the bullet. Head to the Lifetime Lawyers website, lifetimelawyers.org.uk. We've got a really useful and easy tool on there to find a lawyer in your area so you can carry out a search, speak to some solicitors that are near you, get some quotes, find somebody that you're comfortable with, that you like, and just start the process of having that conversation to get your wills in place.
NEWSWAVE.
Okay, that's all we've got time for on this week's edition of NEWSWAVE. A massive Caerhays Radio thank you to Mark Holman of the Cornwall Garden Society, Mel Clear and graduates from Duchy College Rosewarne, Jaimie Parsons at Caerhays, John Gann of Mevagissey Parish Council, to personal finance and consumer expert Sue Hayward, and to Emma Bryson from the Association of Lifetime Lawyers. And as ever, a final thank you to you for listening and helping support local journalism to thrive. To catch up on all our coverage, as well as to check out our extensive back catalogue of interviews and shows, do head on over to chaos.radio. And remember, if you have a local news story that you'd like to share with us, email news@chaos.radio or search Caerhays Radio UK across socials. That's it then. You're up to date here on Caerhays. I'm Tom Howe. Thank you so much for listening. Whatever it is that you're doing in your community this week, as I always say, be sure to add just a little bit of chaos.
NEWSWAVE.
Chaos.radio. Music, podcasts, entertainment.